The United States will not withdraw its troops from Poland, and the contingent may even be reinforced. This declaration by the President of the United States is an undoubted success for Polish President Karol Navroski. Secretary Hegseth, in accordance with President Trump's decision, and Minister Cynkiewicz, in accordance with my decision, will prepare solutions that are certainly good for Poland. However, it is too early to talk about them. I can only confirm that these security guarantees were expressed clearly and strongly at both the open meeting and the plenary meeting. Professor Sławomir Cynkiewicz, head of the National Security Bureau, writes about the Navroski-Trump meeting in the American edition of Newsweek magazine. The meeting is taking place at a time when Washington is reviewing its troop deployment in Europe and preparing a new national security strategy. The permanent presence of U.S. troops in Poland is essential to protect Europe and strengthen the global position of the U.S. against coordinated adversaries. According to former Polish President Andrzej Duda, the White House's announcement that it will maintain and possibly increase the U.S. military presence in Poland may not only be about the number of troops. Not only in terms of the number of soldiers, but also in terms of American infrastructure on our soil. This is the realization of the idea of a real strong American military presence here in this part of the world. Politicians from the current opposition agree on their assessment of President Navroski's actions in the White House. The announcement that this presence will be maintained and even increased in our country, and that there will be no change in this part of the world, is definitely something positive, and President Navroski can certainly give himself a high five for his first success. This is not only a huge success, but also a great exposure of the lies told by the ruling coalition before this visit. They tried to create an atmosphere as if Donald Trump was going to eliminate or reduce the number of American troops in Poland. Meanwhile, according to the statement made during this visit, the opposite is true. But interestingly, representatives of the current government are also talking about the president's success during the talks in Washington. It is very good news that American troops are staying in our country. This declaration regarding an increase in troop numbers, if necessary, is also very good news. It was a very good decision, and everyone in Poland should be happy about it, because we need American soldiers on Polish soil, and I hope that it also dispels all the fears that have arisen so far that we may be facing the opposite process. Because President Trump's public declaration on maintaining the current number of troops in Poland is an unprecedented achievement by President Navroski. As President Donald Trump hosts President Karol Navroski, we recall the words of a hero of both Poland and the United States, General Ryszard Kukliński. "I never considered the United States an enemy of Poland, but a great power that could help Poland. America was the only way I could serve my country, and history has indirectly confirmed this." The words of the American president are particularly important in the context of the previously announced transfer of American troops from Europe to Asia. This is all the more successful, given that on the same day or shortly thereafter, information was confirmed about cuts to the Pentagon's budget for expenditures that were to be directed in part to the defense of the eastern flank, especially with regard to the Baltic states. The declaration that Poland will not be affected is quite an achievement, because we know that we have troops stationed in Germany with extremely well-developed infrastructure, and there is also a small base in Romania. The fact that Poland is included in this reduction is an incredible success. The question is whether this is a return to the Fort Trump project that emerged at the end of Donald Trump's previous term. It was a turning point in 2016 and 2017 after the NATO summit in Warsaw. At that time, the Americans arrived as the framework nation for NATO's presence in Poland, so it started from the military side in the sense of American military units, and gradually, the number of American soldiers increased. With the presence of U.S. Army soldiers, the expansion of the infrastructure used by the Americans, and the purchase of state-of-the-art American equipment also began. By acquiring Abrams tanks, we led to the creation of the Abrams Academy in Poland, a military school where tank crews, both Polish and American, were trained. Such actions must be taken. During the United Right's time in power, power. We made it happen that there are now about 10,000 U.S. Army soldiers stationed on Polish soil. There were also big investments in infrastructure, like the weapons depot in Powice and the training center in Drawsko, and we need to keep going in that direction. The problem is that Polish Prime Minister Tusk does not seem to appreciate the statements made by Donald Trump in the presence of Polish President Navroski. I also did not have any particular expectations that something big and concrete would be achieved there. So let's be happy that it took place, and let's not exaggerate with critical comments about this or any other slip-up. The question is, what slip-ups the Prime Minister is referring to, because he seems to be the only one who noticed them. The key to Poland's success is the credibility of its partner. President Karol Nawrocki has this credibility, but Donald Tusk, the head of the Polish government, does not. He lacks this credibility because he attacked President Donald Trump. That is why it seems that today the issue boils down to how to translate President Karol Nawrocki's great success into concrete actions in which the government led by Donald Tusk must also be involved.